Welcome back to We're Open. Today's guest was a game designer for Free Realms and has become quite the influencer and leader in the gaming industry. Let's find out more. Hey Margaret, thanks for joining us. Jumping right to it, how did you end up at SOE?
Was playing a lot of games during college, going to school for healthcare administration and music theory. But whilst I was doing that, I got into a lot of competitions and started winning them. Some folks were like, hey, we have a podcast that we're looking for another host for. And so I joined them. We started getting sponsors. They invited us to some events. And one of the events that we attended was SOE Live. There were a lot of developers talking about the podcast that we were on and said, hey, we love your perspective. Have you ever thought about being a game designer or a game developer? And I was like, yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to school for that right now. I'm almost done with my college degree. They're like, well, we are hiring some positions and we'll be opening up internal apprenticeships. I made my way into QA, and from QA, I got an apprenticeship, and then I became a game designer.
Is QA a normal path for people that want to be game designers but didn't study it?
You can start by getting into the industry through QA or CS or things like that. I would like QA and CS and community and those types of positions to be forever careers for people. But there's also other ways to get into design through going to school, apprenticeships or internships and things of that sort.
You're right, those are important jobs that shouldn't be seen as stepping stones. What was being a game designer like?
It was one of the fun design positions I've gotten to work at just because I got a lot of freedom and I had a really good group of mentors. I got to design a lot of really cool things. So if you know Seaside, I got to design that whole area and like the history of it. One of my favorite parts was I had this idea of this octopus cafe thing. I want it to be the central part of this walkboard that you're looking out in the ocean. I also did a lot of the class epic quest lines. One of my favorites was the blacksmith quest line. I got to work on the cooking game and the soccer game as well. I never want to make Flash mini games ever again, but it was really fun. And I loved the opportunity to be able to learn because when I first started in the industry, I was really just writing. So I learned scripting and I learned how to use all the tools for implementation. And then I became like a one-stop shop. And then we started getting tools on the art side where we could create our own NPCs too. One of the cool things was seeing kids in U Labs, watching them play. A U Lab is kind of like a user ability watch. We kind of watch people, what their keyboard movements are, how their facial expressions are, where they're getting frustrated, just seeing the things that they do and interact with that you're like, oh, that's not how I thought that would work.
Right, like how blocks were added as players were experimenting with housing furniture.
I mean, we started with more that dollhouse model where it was like, hey, you have a house and you can kind of put them wherever you want. But when we saw people kind of creating their own things, we just embraced it. We're like, all right, we're going to make every shape of a block that you can think of. We're going to make every color. And we really took the community's feedback.
You later became a community manager. How did that come about?
I was kind of forced into a community position and I didn't stay there for that long. I tried. I put as much love and effort as I could into it, but it wasn't really where my passion lied. There was a lot more going on in the industry. I didn't realize what's happening until it was too late. But now I really hope that people will continue to speak up. They're feeling like they're treated unfairly. I definitely was in that situation. I will say that had I not been moved into that position, I would not have the perspective that I have now. I've really gotten to see a bigger picture of how the whole entire development system works. That has made it so I can now be a director of 12 different departments.
Thank you for opening up about your experience. Was there anything you liked about community managing, Elise?
The beauty of community management is getting to build and interact with your community. That is a very, very satisfying thing to experience. There are downsides to it too. You get some people who are really awful. To me, that is a challenge. Utilizing behavioral training to get those people to understand, like, you could be part of this community. Clearly, you want to be. You're passionate. You're here. You might be angry, but let's figure out why. If you're not welcoming to new people, you're not welcoming to the idea that this game could grow and that the community could grow and that development for that product can grow.
You also went by the name Luperza. How did that name originate?
I've been playing Luperza for a really long time. I think even in EverQuest. I used to have like names for each of the different types of classes I would play. Luperza was kind of like my major healer-ish type of class. Free Realms, I went by Megatron in-game.
Most of the community teams seem to go by gamer names. Was that part of the job?
At SOE back in the day, if you were playing games, you were not allowed to say that you were a developer. So we always had to go by other names or things of that sort. But when we were representing the company as a whole, you can represent as your person. I feel like as gamers, we're used to gamer tags. And so that's just what we did.
Yeah, and you still use it. Now, you did a lot of conventions and cosplay with the team.
Yeah, I still do it. I love it. Events have always been really fun. It's another one of those community aspects where you get to like interact with people in person. There's such a different energy you get from people when you're in real life. Getting to see your work up against all these other products and these other developers and getting that interaction of talking to other developers is really neat. On the cosplay front, though, people don't think that I'm an introvert, but I really am. The semblance of being able to be somebody else sometimes, it gives you that shield. And then I also get to show some love to characters that I really, really enjoy. And it's another creative outlet for me.
Both you and your cosplay are very creative. So SOE went on The Price is Right?
Yeah, we did a Price is Right. You don't know that you're going to be on the stage for those things. Basically, you get put in a line. They have cameras on you. They're just looking for personalities and people that they're going to pull on stage. And Roshan got picked as one of the people. We're not surprised. He's very loud and boisterous. And if he would have picked the number that I said versus what the other two girls were saying, he would have won that car.
Ah, that's still so cool, though. What have you been up to since Free Realms? You've been very busy.
Generally, I've continued to work in the game development field. Got to work at NCSoft, where I created a ton of amazing esports and live broadcast studio events. Now I'm getting to build teams from the ground up at this indie studio called Intrepid Studios, where we're making Ashes of Creation. The other side of it is getting to tell really cool stories. I'm a partner in Roll For It, which is a tabletop RPG studio where I'm the CMO over there. I'm also on the board for IGDA. I think they're going to announce me as chair. I've been part of that organization for a long time. And for me, I definitely have been trying to be an advocate for good things. I just want to be the best leader I can in this industry and making sure that we're making change for good. Nothing has to be the way it is just because that's how it's been.
Thank you so much for your advocacy work with your leadership positions. What do you think of Free Realm Sunrise?
I worry about sometimes some of these type of things because there are legal implications. So as long as people are doing things ethically, I think we're okay. Because, you have people who worked and created things and they need credit.
I appreciate you mentioning those concerns. There's a lot to take into account. Before we go, do you have a favorite memory of Free Realms?
The cake boss fight was something that was really fun. We had a lot of team brainstorming and just like the stuff that it was going to interact with in the world and the quests. It was just funny and fun and whimsical. I love that about Free Realms. There was deep history and lore, but there's also this whimsicalness of it.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. Best of luck with Ashes of Creations and congrats on the chair position.
Yeah, thanks.
A big thank you to Margaret for joining us. Who's our next guest? Subscribe to find out.